Thank you very much for that. I already learned a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin by thanking the hosts and, of course, Professor Ganois and the ICT and Alslia in particular for organizing this conference and inviting me to take part. From my point of view, meetings like this are a vital forum for an open and trusting exchange on information, knowledge, and best practices as the basis for a successful fight against international terrorism. So in my keynote today, I will provide you an overview, and it fits quite well to the keynote we just heard, about the current threat possessed by international terrorism from the German view of it, and an insight into the future as we currently see it in the field of international terrorism. If I may, I would like to begin by looking back. On the 19th of December in 2016, at around 8 o'clock in the evening, the Islamist terrorist Anis Amri drove a semi-trailer truck through the Christmas market at the Kaiser Wilhelm Gedächtniskirche on the Breitscheidplatz Square in Berlin. He dragged market stalls, tables, and people with him, and over a distance from at least 70 meters. 12 people died that day, and more than 60 people suffered from injuries that were in some cases severe. A short time after the attack, the Islamic State group claimed responsibility for the attack with a statement that the attacker had acted as a soldier of the Islamic State. The attack at the Breitscheidplatz market had terrible and tragic impact on the lives of many people. But why emphasize that? Because all of us here are well aware that this is what our job is all about. It is about life, about protecting individual lives and life in our societies. This is our mission. Germany is an open, tolerant country, and its capital, Berlin, is especially so. As a Berliner, I can vouch for that. Last year, more than 30 million people visited Berlin from all over the world. And it may be painful to think about, but it also reflected in the origins of the victims of the Breitscheidplatz attack. Those killed and injured included Germans, but also people from other countries, from Poland, Spain, the UK, Italy, Finland, Lebanon, Hungary, and an Israeli woman was also killed that day. Her husband was seriously injured and was left fighting for his life for several weeks in a Berlin hospital. He lost his lifetime partner, and their children lost their mother. In our work, we focus on the perpetrators, the mastermind behind their actions, and their networks. But we must also make sure that we are always aware of the suffering of the victims of terrorist attacks. I'm here to speak for the federal government of Germany, and in particular for the Federal Minister of the Interior, Mr. Seehofer. He personally is in close contact with all of the victims and relatives of victims who want this. Countries that are affected by terrorism must come to grips with attacks of this type. After all, creating uncertainty and fear in societies is exactly what terrorists aim for. Israel is a good example how to face that. In my visits to the country, I've been struck time and again by a special, direct openness coupled with a generally positive attitude in spite of the ongoing threat this country faces. The attack on the Breitscheidplatz was perhaps not the turning point for Germany, but it has certainly found its way into the public consciousness. The immediate consequences of these events have changed the Christian holiday of Christmas for all of us, not just for me and my family. My children, twin boys, played night shift in the command and control center after that. And we in the security community in Germany are still trying to come to terms with the attack today. It was followed by an intensive phase of reappraising the way we work. On the 1st of March 2018, the German Bundestag decided to set up a committee of inquiry tasked with investigating the attack in Berlin and the surrounding circumstances and putting together a complete picture of the action taken by the authorities involved. We have looked very closely at our information channels and criteria for risk assessment, and we have tightened the latter. We have also initiated changes to the law. Right up to today, we are still discussing powers for our security authorities that have long been standard to Israel, the United States, and many other countries. Forgive me, my next remark will be somewhat flippant. An Israeli colleague once said to me, "That's a problem I'd like to have, Jens. You have so much opportunity for reappraisal after every attack. If we would do so, we'd be at it forever. I prefer to concentrate on saving lives." Not to be causing any form of misunderstanding, I'm deeply convinced that a diligent reappraisal is crucial. We already drew important conclusions out of it. Regarding our security situation, we can and we should also continue with it. Since the year 2000, the German security authorities have prevented a total of 20 Islamist terror attacks. The figure include the preparation of an Islamist-motivated CBRN attack, that was one inside your figures, using a biological bomb made of resinous seeds. As part of a search in June last year, substances and items were found in an apartment in Cologne that would be used to produce an explosive device to release the toxin resin. I would like to mention one more thing, which State Secretary Engelke already mentioned at this event last year. It is something which I also consider to be of fundamental importance to our work. Phenomena are interdependent. Public perception in Germany and elsewhere is that the current focus is on right-wing extremism. There's a good reason for that. But I would also emphasize that the threat posed by Islamist terrorism has not gone away. We have to make sure that we strike the right balance. An Islamist-motivated attack, in turn, provokes reactions from right-wing extremists in Germany. So we need to have long-term instruments and structures in place for both types of threat. In any event, we do not see any evidence of a reduced threat from Islamist terrorism or global jihad, as it is called right here. Although there were no Islamist attacks in 2018 in Germany, the threat in Germany remains severe and has stabilized on a high level. Reliable figures show that for 2018 there was a slight increase in the number of Islamist individuals on the previous year, bringing the figure above 26,000. The share of violent extremists is around about 2,000. In Germany alone, some 1,200 investigations are underway, with more than 1,400 suspects. Terrorist groups regard Germany as their enemy, and Germany is a declared target of organizations such as the Islamic State Group and Al-Qaeda. Terrorism, and in particular Islamist terrorism, is a global challenge. We have learned this the painful way. Particularly in regard to IS. Organizations like this have a great capacity to resist and adapt to changing conditions. Even a major military setback have not prevented these organizations from planning or inspiring attacks in our countries. To face this threat, our liberal democracies governed by the rule of law must work together. In Europe, we live in an area of freedom, security, and justice under the shadow of a shared threat. The Tunisian who carried out the attack in Berlin on the Breitscheidplatz traveled through several European countries, both before and after the attack, and was ultimately called in Italy by the local security authorities. In other cases, there were connections to Germany, as was it with the Paris attacks on the 13th of November 2015 at the Stade de France and the Bataclan. European cooperation is therefore a central priority for us. The Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union is crystal clear on this point. Article 6 sets out the right to liberty and security. Internationally, I see the situation in Syria and in Iraq as a current and future challenge. We currently have indications that more than 1,050 Islamists from Germany have left the country to travel to Syria and or Iraq and fight there or otherwise support the Islamic State group. We have information that about 200 of those people have died there. About 1/3 of the total is now back in Germany. A number of them have already been convicted. Returning foreign fighters, it was already mentioned, pose a particular threat. Such individuals played a key role in organizing and carrying out the devastating Paris attacks in 2015, for example. One thing, however, is clear. All German nationals, which means also those suspected of having fought for IS, have, in principle, the right to return to Germany. This is not the same as actively bringing such persons back, however. Minister Seehofer already spoke last spring in favor of an international criminal justice system in the region. In the case of their return to Germany, these people have to face German criminal justice. But the criminal justice system alone is not enough. In Germany, therefore, we have a comprehensive approach to fighting terrorism in place. Wherever possible, we try to initiate de-radicalization measures. In Germany, we have structures in place that have evolved over years. They extend as far down as to the local level. We have good experience in involving civil society organizations in this approach. They provide extra credibility. This comprehensive approach is central given the very mixed composition of the group of returnees, which includes women and children. The Federal Ministry of Interior plays a key role in this regard. It provides funding to the federal states through the Advice Center on Radicalization. This finances posts for returns coordinators. These coordinators are responsible on the ground for coordinating the different bodies involved. These range from the police to the Youth Welfare Office. Their role is also to ensure the flow of information. I'm very pleased that Milena Ullmann is taking part in a panel on the topic of de-radicalization during this conference. She will explain the German structures in more detail. This is a topic that will accompany us going forward. I would like to address one more topic, the influence from Iran, which is the second area of particular concern for me. From the European perspective, at least, the JCPOA had a stabilizing effect. I am nonetheless aware that others may see differently. In any case, the situation is currently no better. Iran is present on the international stage, although its plans to date remain in part unclear. Iran, with Hezbollah, can regard themselves the victors of the war in Syria. We are aware of activities in Europe and in Germany and are keeping a close eye on them together with our partners. This is yet another dimension of the ongoing threat. We too had attacks, attempted attacks, and preparations for attacks that we were able to foil in Europe. From a security perspective, the situation has not improved in the slightest. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot end today without taking the opportunity as a representative of the federal German government to thank our Israeli host once again for our productive cooperation over the decades. It is precisely the trusting exchange of information with our Israeli partners which plays an indispensable part in ensuring Germany's internal security. To my knowledge, we also do contribute to Israel's protection. I will, of course, make the most of my time in your wonderful country to further strengthen these contacts. And today's conference will help to enhance and deepen such trusting relationships at a bilateral and a multilateral level. Thank you very much.